Today I'm presenting to you some of the major highlights from my current research and progress as just described by Eric Olson. So in recent years, the subcultural identity of BDSM has gained notoriety through its mention in popular culture and media, in turn becoming a sort of phenomenon. One such example of this is the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy of books, as well as the consequential films. BDSM as a subculture is commonly placed under the umbrella of fetish and kink practices. BDSM stands for bondage, domination, submission, sadism, and masochism. While there are currently studies that do exist on BDSM within the scholarship of psychology, there have been few in-depth studies to understand the relationships between BDSM and dress in terms of meaning construction, consumption practices, especially using an intersectional lens. The result of this is a gap in the literature which I intend to fill. My specific purpose is to conduct this research in order to highlight the women within the subculture. I aim to understand their dress and consumption experiences in addition to the stigma and/or empowerment that may be associated with those practices. As a result of this research, I will encourage women within the subculture to write their own narrative about their lived experiences. In addition, the study will offer information about this subcultural group to wider society at large, as well as women who may be already or may consider participating. Finally, this research has the potential to offer business implications to a $30 billion industry. When reviewing some of the relevant literature, I found that numerous scholars have indicated that dress is utilized to indicate identity and present the self. All subcultures referring to smaller groups within larger society, indicate and express their identities through dress practices, and often utilize dress in a way to relate to one another. Some well-known subcultures, including both punk and goth, are the epitome of subcultural communities in that they utilize stylistic expression to indicate their identities. These subcultural communities in particular have also been linked to some of the practices that are found within the fetish kink arena today, which BDSM falls under. I also examined various feminist perspectives on the topic and found positions both for and against BDSM. Feminist scholars of the 70s and 80s show a resistance to women participating in BDSM, as they consider the practice to be the epitome of violence against women and misogyny. Later on, though, the later feminists express sentiments of empowerment and agency. I also performed a review of what is currently known about the garments utilized within the fetish and kink arena. Some important highlights include the material nature of the garments, including soft or hard textiles, which could indicate lace for soft as an example, and leather for hard as an example. Color, costume, aspects of constriction, character, and effectuation, all of which are used to express identity through dress within a subcultural BDSM scene. When it comes to that consumption aspect of this study, we can see that there is a strong tie to identity. Many scholars believe that dress and consumption practices are deeply tied together and that identity drives behavior and ultimately consumption. More specifically, according to scholars, subcultural groups in particular are commonly defined through their visual indicators of consumption, and they can even be transformed by the ritual of consuming and the practice of dressing the body. Based on my review of literature and what has been previously studied, I identified the gap I will be filling through answering the following specific questions. So, how do women who participate in BDSM practices negotiate their subcultural identities through dress? That is, how do they construct meanings for their dress? How do interactions shape meanings for their dress? How do they navigate the stigmatization or the empowerment or agency through their dress? And most importantly, maybe, how do their salient, historically marginalized identities influence their dress? That could include queer, fat, people of color, lower socioeconomic status, etc. My second question focuses more on the consumption aspect. So what are the dress and consumption experiences, shopping, representation, discarding, of women who participate in BDSM practices? And again, I ask how meanings are constructed through the participants' consumption experiences, how their interactions shape their meanings for these consumption experiences, and ultimately how their intersecting, salient, historically marginalized identities may influence their consumption practices and overall experiences. To guide the research, I utilize a symbolic interactionism and intersectionality theory, or theories. I have chosen these two theories, because of the relationships they have to the questions that I'm asking, as I want to make sure to truly understand the importance of symbolism and meanings associated with garments and accessories that affect the dress and consumption practices of these women. I also aim to understand the ways in which the multiple salient and intersectional identities that they hold can impact these practices based on their lived experiences. In order to answer my research questions, I am using an abbreviated version of grounded theory with a social constructivist and qualitative approach. I'm using the abbreviated version in order to develop a subset of a larger theory. I'm currently in the process of conducting in-depth, semi-structured wardrobe interviews with each participant via video chat, actually via Zoom. After the interview is complete, I ask participants to send images of the dress and/or accessory items that we've discussed and looked at together. Images can be laid flat or on the body, whatever is most comfortable for the participant and completely up to their discretion. My participant inclusion criteria for the study are as follows. The participant must self-identify as a woman. They must self-identify as a participant of the BDSM community for at least 1 year in time. They must be 18 years of age or older and have lived mostly stateside in the United States over the past 10 years. The participants are identified through purposive sampling, recruited through online forums, social media, and word of mouth. Here's just a quick snippet of my interview schedule for this study. So some of the questions include, how do you express your BDSM identity? This could be different for each participant, right? Some may identify as dominant, which we will talk about. Some may identify as submissive within their practices. So how do you express your BDSM identity through clothing or appearance? Can you show me some examples from your closet that you'd previously mentioned? Can you tell me about the material, the texture, and the color of your garments? Do you ever feel that your BDSM fashions make you feel a sense of agency? Is that expressed through your dress and appearance? Do you ever feel that your BDSM fashions make you feel stigmatized or oppressed? And of course, where and how do you purchase and obtain these items? So, I to date have had 4 interviews completed. I've seen the following initial themes emerge. I do expect that this information will shift and change as I proceed through the data collection process. I found that while participants are in scenes are spaces such as BDSM parties, dungeons, clubs, where women participate in BDSM-oriented practices, including the act of domination or the act of submission, that the women construct meaning through the objects and interactions with others, both. One such interaction is dress. So dress in these scenes is utilized in order to conceal and reveal simultaneously. Often revealed and accentuated are the breasts, the buttocks, and waistline in order to project a sort of an image of heightened femininity. Color and texture, the fabrication of garments, are utilized to communicate roles within the scene, which could include being submissive, being a dominant, or a switch, which a switch is somebody that participates within both roles. You can see that in my images here. So here are some images of submissive dress, which you'll see are a little bit softer versus the dominant dress, which are a little bit harsher. I'll come back to those again. So through the use of color and texture, there's also been an emergence of BDSM identity intersecting and overlapping with other subcultural identities, including punk and goth. So here, especially in the dominant dress, you can see a kind of crossover between that goth with a lot of black and the straps and for like traditional punk, where here you're seeing a little bit more traditionally feminine, though you do see corsetry a lot of times for both dominant and submissive positions. There's also a navigation of queerness that manifests just as it does in everyday dress. Participants have often mentioned that their queer salient identities and how they're manifested through dress. Queer identities and BDSM identities are navigated through the use of accessories in order to kind of what I would call power play with pieces like and accessories like strap-on sex toys in order to heighten a submissive and dominant character or role. In addition to fashion accessories, aspects of appearance including hair, it has been extremely significant in the construction of meaning, whether it's through the use of natural hair or wigs. And this has become evident in both my women of color and white women. So you'll see some wigs here and here. And notice that the styling of the wigs are different for the different positions that are held within the community. The process of consumption for my female participants is predominantly online. So women who were plus size felt as though they were missing in the industry, just as there is a lack of plus size clothing in the industry at large. There too is a lack of accessibility for plus size clothing within the realm of BDSM. Overall, participants have expressed agency in their interactions with objects of dress, as well as their interactions with others. I look forward to continuing my research and hopefully getting back to you all with a full report.